I lived alone in a small apartment above a liquor store. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap and I didn't need much space. There was only one mirror in my entire apartment, an old, full-length one attached to the bathroom door. I never really paid much attention to it. That is, until the night I noticed something wrong. It was past midnight and I was brushing my teeth before bed. I leaned over the sink, rinsing my mouth, and when I stood back up, I caught something in the reflection. My reflection was slower than me. At first, I thought I was just tired. I moved my hand in front of my face. My reflection did the same, but there was a slight delay. Almost like a lag in a video call. I frowned and stepped closer. My reflection did too. Everything looked normal. Maybe I imagined it. I shook it off and went to bed. But the next night, it happened again. This time, when I smiled at the mirror, my reflection's smile lingered just a little too long after I had already stopped. Panic crept up my spine. I tested it again, lifting my arm, tilting my head. The delay was subtle but definitely there. I stared at the mirror for what felt like forever, waiting for something else to happen, and then my reflection blinked. I hadn't. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. That was impossible. My reflection just stood there, watching me with my face, my eyes, but something about them looked off. I didn't sleep that night. I avoided the bathroom completely. The next morning, I covered the mirror with an old bedsheet, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. What had I seen? Was it just my imagination? A few nights later, I was sitting on my couch, trying to distract myself with TV, when I heard something. A faint, muffled sound coming from the bathroom. A whisper. It was coming from behind the covered mirror. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to check, but I had to. I walked toward the bathroom, my hands shaking, and slowly pulled the sheet down. The mirror was empty. I mean completely empty. I was standing in front of it, but there was no reflection. I ran out of my apartment that night and never went back. I don't know what was wrong with that mirror or what was watching me from the other side. But I do know one thing, I wasn't alone in that apartment. I had just moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't anything special, just a one-bedroom unit on the top floor of an old building. The rent was cheap, and the location was decent, so I took it without much thought. The first few nights were uneventful. The apartment had thin walls, and I could hear my neighbors arguing sometimes, but that was nothing new. However, about a week after moving in, I started noticing weird sounds coming from above me. It sounded like faint scratching or something shifting in the ceiling. I figured it was just rats. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a distinct creaking sound. It came from the ceiling directly above my bed. I held my breath, listening. The sound moved, slow, deliberate steps. That's when it hit me. I was on the top floor. There shouldn't have been anyone above me. I sat up, my heart racing. The steps continued, moving toward the small attic hatch in my bedroom ceiling. I stared at it, frozen. The hatch was slightly ajar. Had it always been like that? I grabbed my phone and quietly moved out to the living room, trying to convince myself I was just imagining things. But just as I was about to sit down, I heard it. A soft thud. Something had dropped from the attic onto my bedroom floor. I didn't wait. I ran out of my apartment and called the police from the hallway. When they arrived, they found the attic hatch completely open. Inside the attic, they found a dirty blanket, empty food wrappers, and a small hole drilled in the ceiling, right above my bed. Someone had been living up there, watching me. I moved out the next day. I don't know how long he was there or what his intentions were. I don't want to know.